Okay, we're back. And hopefully without audio sync this time. Or hopefully with audio sync. We want to have synced audio. That's what I'm trying to get across. The audio will hopefully be synced now. So there were two problems. One, I had my Dropbox sync turned on and it was syncing. So that's not good. And problem number two is that I installed an update on my iPad since last time I had it hooked up to this. As you'll recall, I use my iPad as a second monitor, and it requires a wired connection. And the when you hook up an iOS device to and Xcode is running, it indexes that device to make sure that it's ready for testing. And so it was like busily revving up the processor to full capacity to index the iPad while also trying to stream. So I apologize for that. We're back and now live again, and hopefully the audio is syncing correctly because all the stuff going on in the background is no longer happening. And at some point, maybe we will figure out all of our myriad technical problems. Speaking of which, let's talk about the technical problems that I experienced last stream. Yeah, the issues that we were having last time. Number one, the iPad kept on turning off or flickering and causing the entire screen to flicker, and that sucked. I discovered that it was not actually a problem with the iPad. It was a bad cable, but it was a bad cable twice because I had realized. So I had a suspicion that one of the cables that I had kicking around here was bad, but I wasn't sure which one it was. So I was trying the first cable, and then at some point in the stream, I switched out to another cable that was literally brand new, and I guess I had not taken into account the fact that the brand new cable might also just be a dud. So yes, iPad is fine, as it turns out. The cables were just bad. So great, fantastic. That problem is solved. Other issues that we were having last time involved not being able to do logic because I had been working really long hours for weeks, and getting frustrated over some math behavior that turned out not to be math problems. It turns out just not be knowing how the API worked. That's just me being too hard on myself in a situation where I was way too tired, and I was really a lot more tired when I was streaming last week than I realized. As evidenced by the fact that I slept all day Saturday. Thank goodness for Tally, who basically, I want to say, covered for me. Yeah, our daughter gets up at 6:30 every day, so it's important that we be up as well. And Tally just basically sent me back to bed after I got up, and that was really nice. And I slept until 11, and it was amazing. And this week, I worked a normal work week, and that's great as well. So yeah, let's get back to it. I think that what we're going to do today, I want to look at I want to refine a little bit what we were working on last week for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think there might be just an easier way to do it, and I want to make sure that that's not an option. I realized all my best programming insights come when I'm in the shower. And I realized when I was in the shower on Saturday morning, late morning, that probably I was overlooking some stuff in because a collection view is a scroll view. It should still have paging because it's a scroll view, and scroll views have paging built in. So I want to just make sure that there's not a simple answer that I'm not overlooking. And then number two, we have that issue where I think what was happening is when we dragged the well, I can show you what the issue is. I will attempt to reproduce it, and then so we'll do some refinements there, and then I need to get back to the project of getting the app up on Apple Developer Connect on iTunes Connect to actually get it ready to submit and upload. Not that we're super close to that yet, but I want to get alphas out for Ash to look at, and I keep on having issues with finding the time to do things like that. I was hoping to have a bonus stream last week to do it, and I just did not. There was never the time, and we're away all this coming weekend, so I need to figure out uh, figure out a time to do that, and I was hoping to not have it go in our normal streaming schedule times, but you know what? If we've got to do it in our normal streaming schedule times, then that's when we're going to do it. So it could just be a bunch for the second half of the stream of trying to submit to Apple and figuring out reasons that they won't let us submit. Pardon me. Which is also interesting because I think that there is an issue with after I moved info.plist in a previous episode, I think it may have caused another issue that I was not anticipating, which is that there's some image files that are supposed to be there. Basically, when iPhone 10 came out, you need to put in new image files for the like startup screen for it that take into account the notch at the top of the screen. So that yeah, that's stuff to figure out as well. So that could take the entire rest of the stream, or it could be really quick. We'll find out. And I was going to put on some music. And I think I will put on... I wonder if I can find... I wonder if the music for this is, like, up. I'm looking for the soundtrack to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3: The Manhattan Project on the NES. Yeah, looks like someone's got it up there. So let's see if we can listen to that for a bit. It's 24 minutes long, and there's an ad. Oh no. One there. Okay, music, please. Perfect. And to the screen. Okay. I love this game. As a kid, it was like this game and Mega Man 4 came out the same year, and I was like, it was between those two games, and they were both very, very good. I think that for Christmas, they were both on my Christmas list. And as a kid, my mother did not approve of video games. My dad was fine with them. They were separated, divorced, and so I had wished for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 and Mega Man 4. And I guess my friend Cody, who lived across the road, and I had sort of hoped that we would get like different the alternate games, but we both got Mega Man 4, and my dad was like, oh, I didn't, like, we would have, like, me and Cody's dad would have talked if you had just told us that. But whatever. Mega Man 4 was, like, a way better game anyway. Mega Man 4 is, like, is not considered to be one of the best Mega Man games. And it's, like, way easier than the two that came before it. I was super proud of myself when I beat it. But yeah. Anyway, I don't think I ever beat Ninja Turtles 3, but there was, the Konami code worked on it. But it was a weird version of the Konami code. So I beat it with the Konami code. Anyway, let's get to programming and stop talking about video games. So, I just want to see what we've got outstanding here. So this is all the stuff that we did last time, where we had scroll view, did end dragging. Let's go to the iPhone SE. I love that the first level music in this game has not synthesized audio, but like, it's got that recorded in it that sounds really awful, but it's actually used really quite effectively, like the best you could probably do on the NES, because it's super fast, so you don't really get across like how awful the sampled audio is. My sister used to rent a Sesame Street game from the video store near our place, Sesame Street 1, 2, 3, and it starred the Count as the main character, and the Count would like talk. You could like but it was all awful like NES sound. So it's an NES sample sound does not sound good. And we are waiting for Xcode to launch the simulator for the first time, which could take a little bit. There we go. This is some good music though for the NES. This game was pretty great. This is where, like, because Ninja Turtles 2 for the NES was like a straight port of the arcade game, and that was still based on the cartoon show, so it was still kind of goofy, but this is where they were, like, really kind of showing off what they could do on the NES. I'm again like beer in hand. End of a long week. It's a Friday night. Okay, let's draw some cards and look at what was going on last time. So we had it set up so that when we clicked or tapped, our text shows up. We can dismiss it like that. And then we set up our paging scrolling last time. But I think that the way that it was messed up was like if you like stop at a very specific point, you could sort of get it to like drift through one onto another and then like stop sort of in the middle. So like we want to avoid this this situation, which like corrects itself as soon as we interact with it. So there's two things that we could do to conceivably fix this. One is that we're theoretically overriding the wrong delegate method. And I'm trying to remember what the one that we proposed. So I think this is the one that we're actually looking for. So it like yeah, so I think it's this one where it's the collection view is going to, oh, maybe it's not this one. No, maybe it is. Yeah, where it's going to stop, where it's going to stop moving, and it's like here's the target content set. Here's where it's going to propose stopping when it is done decelerating, and we can basically set a different offset. So we can say, okay, well, you're going to stop here, which is a point between these two things, but instead just like maintain your speed a little longer and go a little farther. I just want to confirm that our collection view doesn't have these paging APIs. So, Rock Pusher, are you saying you had the Master System? I like knew someone who had a Master System when I was a kid. It was like a buddy of mine. I was over at his house one time and I played Double Dragon, and he's like, we're going to play Nintendo. And then we went to play Nintendo, but of course playing Nintendo at the time, you could be playing any video game. We played Double Dragon, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then I played Double Dragon on the NES like sometime later and was like, this is not as good as the Double Dragon that I played before. Because I think Double Dragon on the Master System had 2-player support, right? Whereas it didn't on the NES. What do we want? We want UI scroll view. Oh man, Alex Kidd in Miracle World. It's a good game. Most of the Master System that I actually played later on was a buddy of mine had the adapter to like let you play Master System games on the Genesis, and then he had like a bunch of Master System games that we played with that, including like Wonder Boy, which is a good game. Basically Adventure Island, but not. Okay, so this is what I was looking for. Is paging enabled? But I wonder if I can set this on the collection view. Okay, so we can set it. So let's set that. And then just override, not override, but comment that out and see what we get. Now, what it says in this API documentation is that this will cause it to stop on multiples of its bounds, which is not actually what we want. And I don't see an option for, you know, like what I like scroll or page width, basically. So this might not work, but that's looking pretty good. Oh, the sun art is so good. Yeah, okay, so it's the page width is too wide. So in order to make this work the way that we want it to, I think what we would have to do is decrease the size of the scroll view to be just the size of the card, but then allow it to show through. But then the problem that we would have would be that our touches wouldn't be communicated to the content if the user, so if the user started a touch outside the bounds, then it would not work. Yeah. The other option that we would have there would be that we could make the size of, this is like a little hacky, but we could make the size of the card cells larger and center the cards, and then have them overlap each other, which is sneaky. Like a sneaky way of accomplishing the same thing. That said, we have some code that pretty much works. It's very close. So maybe we should just try updating our current code to see if we can get that to work properly. And then if we can't, then we can move on from there. Actually want the delegate. I still love that they've got basically someone's D&D characters as their characters in their example. That's amazing. UI collection view delegate. So managing actions, managing focus, should spring load item. So where is that? Where's that method that we were looking at before? Listen to that rain. That's beautiful. Okay, this is actually a way better. When I was like looking this up after last episode, I was finding something that used an unsafe mutable pointer for this, but this actually makes a lot more sense. So like this is basically like it'll propose a stop point, and we will say, okay, actually we want the stop point to be at this other place. So what did we determine last time? We determined that the content offset is actually from here, like it's the 0 offset. So let's look at the calculations that we're doing here. We also don't get like to find out the velocity here. It's just like So horizontal offset. This is where we are gonna. So can we just take this and? So we want that, and we need to figure out basically where it needs to be to put the closest cell in the center. So that's going to be multiples of the cell width plus spacing, right? Because cell width plus spacing is going to put this card there. So it's just going to be like we're just going to divide it, right? Like it's just going to be an int divide, so that there's no remainder. Like, no, because we don't always want to round down. We sometimes want to round up. So we want to move this up here so that we can get a reference to the layout. Except for we don't have to say draw view.collection view, we can just say the collection view's layout. And then instead of saying that's that, we just get it here, so that's the proposed offset. And then that's correct. Center to center width is going to be the item width plus the spacing. We don't have any way of getting the item width yet, so let's get that. Return. So we've got to return something here. We can't just escape, or we can't just exit early without returning. So there we go. So so if you don't have a layout, then just return where you were gonna go, and that's great. So now we need the item spacing or the item width. So we'll get that. Whoa. Re-indent that? That looks pretty awful. Try that. That's better. Okay, and then, so flow layout, oh, what are you doing? So here we have to call self.collectionView, otherwise it gets confused with that collection view. We want like this method, not, do we have to re-indent that again? No, it's fine. Okay, and then, and this will be the proposed content offset divided by the center to center width. We'll do this as an int, so it'll hack it off. Oh wait, no, we're already doing that. So yeah, that's the index float, and then so then we are still just getting our index. Oh, wait. Are we just doing... Oh, no, that's right. So int index flow plus 1. Proposed center offset is a point, so we need to... Oh, no, no, not y, it's x. I do that all the time, too. I'm the worst. Like, left and right, not so bad. X and y, I transpose a lot in my code, and it's bad. Okay, so we have the index, and then... And then we want return index times center to center width. Oh, wait, and then it's going to want to point back, right? Yeah. So we want to create a point. So it wants like a point with an x and y coordinate. So go on. You got an initializer. I know you do. I know you do. It's just this, right? Or is that too easy? Is that gonna work? Is that gonna compile? Okay, so let's try commenting this out. Let's just take one last look at this code again to make sure that we're not doing something crazy. So target content offset for proposed content offset. So when it gives us a proposed content offset, we look at the offset. Well, we get the item width first of all. We get the layout, which gives us some other information. We get the minimum line spacing from the layout. We then get the center to center width by adding the spacing to the item width. So that gives us the space to here, which is what we want for the offset because we know that the offset is from here to here. And then we take our proposed content offset and we divide it by the center to center width to get the number of total center to centers that it has in it. And we go through this convoluted process to round up where we fmod it to see what the remainder is after we divide it by 1. And if the remainder is greater than 0.5, we set this boolean to true. And then so if round up, then we take index float, we turn it into an integer, so we hack off the remainder, and then we add 1, which is the round up. If we're not rounding up, we just hack off the remainder and just use it as a straight integer conversion. And that gives us the number of cards over that we should be. And then the index is the minimum of that and the maximum of that and 0. So if it's greater than 0, we use it, but if it's 0, we just use, or if it's less than 0, if somehow like should give -1, we use 0. And then if we do the opposite for max. So if it's if it would put us over too far for the maximum number of cards, then we just use the maximum number of cards. And then we return a point that uses this as its x value and y value of 0, so it's not scrolled on y at all. All right. Theoretically, this should work as well as what we did before, and in fact better, because it should not have that bug where we can stop and sort of drift into a place that we don't want to go. Fingers crossed. Go. Got the sun again. Good luck. That's good. That's Also good, I think. We're definitely rounding down too frequently. Okay, we need to do some crog logging here to figure out what the problem is. We're very close. It's definitely snapping to the right places. It's just not making the right calculations as to like when it should snap to which place. So that's good, I think. Let's actually get another. That's fine. We only needed 3. Oh no. Oh wait. Okay. We still have paging turned on. Like, is paging enabled, is still activated. So that might not be calling our delegate at all. I think we're getting to the end of this soundtrack. What? Oh, we're on to... Nice. It just rolled straight into TMNT2, the arcade game, and the playlist that we're on is pretty good, so I'm just going to leave it. TMNT2, the arcade game, was like way more self-serious. There was a girl in my class in elementary school named Natalie who had this game, and who I convinced to invite me over to play it. And my parents and whatnot, my parents and aunts and uncles were all like, "Ooh, you went over to a girl's house." And I was like, "Yeah, to play video games." We're in elementary school. We're like 6 years old. Like, come on. Okay, so what I'm seeing here is that this is not working the way that I wanted it to. It seems that it is not snapping at all, which is not what we want. That's not what we want at all. Is our delegate method being called? Is my next question. Okay, so it's not being called. Yeah, that's basically it. Small J did just use girls to get to the video games. It was bad. Small J used everyone to get to video games. It's bad news. Not a good role model. So why is this collection view? We are the delegate of this collection view. This is just for layout changes and animated updates. Okay, this is maybe not what we want, but we're close. Okay, let's check UI scroll view again. Aha! This is the one we want. Okay, so this is the one that uses the unsafe mutable pointer. So let's try this one. So they've changed it to target content offset. There we go. So it's an unsafe mutable pointer. That basically means that it passes us in an argument, but then we can like pass it back an argument to, or pass a value back into that argument to give it something. And I haven't used one of those in Swift yet, so we're gonna have to see how that works, because I'm not entirely sure. Let's find out. So this should break because it doesn't. I'm not actually supposed to return anything from this method. Is that correct? Is that the correct notation for this in Swift? It does not seem to be breaking, so I'm just not sure, like, if this container class is like an optional and that I can just assign it CG point and it'll work, or what. But it seems to not be breaking, so that's a plus. Okay, so and then this should be go back to being draw view dot collection view. And then we can remove the self here because there's no longer namespace confusion. There's like no longer something, there's no longer a variable called collection view, so it'll just assume that it's the method. And this should be target. Okay, let's see what's happening. Let's try this. The third method. Oh, wait. Okay, that's interesting. So, I guess it is a container. Let's see what kind of properties it does have. Advanced by. As I say, I haven't really used unsafe mutable pointers in Swift, so let's just have a look at see what that looks like. So it's .memory. Has been renamed to Pointee. Thanks. Okay, so and then do I have to set Pointee there? That would make sense. Okay, so we should talk about what an unsafe mutable pointer is. And okay, so here that we would just return. So we're gonna return without. Okay. All of these values that we're playing with are a lot of the values that we play with are values. So they are stored in memory, and they anytime that we want to use them, we copy them to another place. So we say, okay, I've got this number and I want to use this number in this other method. We just copy the number over and we use it in the method. And then when we're done with it, we delete the copy and, go back and maybe we modify the original version or whatever. Now, a lot of what we do in object-oriented programming involves pointers. I guess this predates object-oriented programming, but the idea being that you basically, if you want to create an object, like any of our cards and things like that, these are instances of classes that we have spun up. And when we deal with a card and pass it from method to method or class to class, we are actually passing the same card. But we're not actually passing it around between those things. We are just we have one card in one place, and we're creating pointers from all of those various places that point at that card. So in this case, we're being passed a pointer to a CG point, which is not mutable because it's a structure. And we are being given the option to point that pointer at another point, which is stored in memory somewhere. So basically, it's kind of the same as returning something, but it's not, because this is an older API. Basically, I think if this was a newer API, probably we would have a better way of doing this. But whatever. Anyway, this is going to work. I hope this is going to work. Come on, work. Jer needs a win. Please. Please. We could end up with some weird behavior here, because we're not really accounting for velocity or whatever, but I'm hoping that maybe it'll not be so problematic. Two cards. Let's get 3 cards. Yes. Okay. What? So that's working the way that we want it to. So we're always stopping in the right place from the looks of things, which is good. And it looks like we're basically using velocity to figure stuff out. It's not like perfect, but it's pretty good. And yeah, we're definitely always coming to a stop centered where we want to be centered. So that's good. I think we're basically coming to a stop centered where we want to be centered. This might be like a little rigid. Like there is this option that we can like use velocity to make like more distinct calculations. But this is looking pretty good to me. Good. Good. Yes. Okay. Great. Let's call that done for now. There's definitely more that we could do here, but I'm pretty happy with what we've come up with. So let's delete that. Yeah. Yeah, we got proof of concept here for sure. So that's good. Next up, okay, so is this just the snapping or is there more to it? So we're setting the edge insets. Did we like add a... That's weird. Let's fix that. This is like wrapping, so you can't really see it, but we inserted a line break here. Don't want that. Always make sure that you are not committing things you don't want to commit, kids. That looks pretty good. Okay. Let's open our organizer here. That's not Xcode. Okay, so this is the build that we made a little while ago. We're going to delete that. You should really delete. Where's the finder? Cannot see the Finder. Okay. Okay. Curious. Just not refreshing? Looks like it. Okay, so let's go back to our default generic iOS device. And let's archive this and see what happens. So as we established in our bonus stream where I was trying to upload to iTunes Connect before, this is not going to work because it's going to run into errors that are going to need to be solved. So, and I think that this error is also one of them. So it's like you've got unassigned children, but actually there's no images there. So that's what is confusing me greatly. So so we have an archive. Let's see what happens when we try and upload it to the App Store. All right, and we've established that this could take a little while. Meanwhile, in Sketch, okay, so here's our app icon, such as we have created it so far. I had an idea the other day, of course, after I went offline when I had been working on this. Let's actually... I do like just using buffer for this. I had thought of like using the sort of construction site thing, like where we would make this like yellow with a black border, and then make the duck black, and then give him a little construction hat, which would be really cute. But I think that I will actually just leave it like this because that's easier. So how do we do this? This is like one of those things where I'm like, I know enough about Sketch to like use it for work. That is, I know enough about Sketch to, yeah, like get like metrics and values out of it, which I need to use for development. So it's like, okay, like I need this to be this wide and whatnot. Except for if you have been looking at my Twitter, you would have noticed that I posted an article today about why values sometimes do not line up across Sketch and iOS, which is unfortunate and somewhat annoying when you are doing iOS development. Someone pointed out to me that Sketch actually does all of its metrics, like all of its rendering is like web standard stuff, and so it will match perfectly the CSS output, which is like great for web apps, but not great for iOS. So, I mean, on one hand, it kind of sucks that Apple stuff doesn't line up with web standards. On the other hand, it's like it's hardware stuff. So, and they've probably been doing it since like Next Step. So I can't imagine that the incentive is really there for Apple to update their hardware rendering to match web standards. Aside from like maybe making designer lives easier and our lives easier, I guess, to interact with. But realistically, it doesn't make... The gain for Apple is not really there, because if you think about it, they'd have to like go back and update all their UIs for all of their apps to take into account that new rendering, and that just doesn't seem like good. And they'd bifurcate their code too, because they'd have to like support like one rendering engine for one version and like another one for another. That just seems like a mess. Okay, there's got to be like an export. Perfect. That's what I want. I don't care about this one. These ones I want, though. Where's it going to go? Perfect. No, that's not exactly what I meant. I thought it was going to go in a folder on the desktop. It's called icon as well. That's not the greatest, but not the worst either. I wonder if I can change the names of that by just like changing the name of that artboard. I'm not sure. I guess it doesn't matter that much because we're just going to use this as a throwaway anyway. Okay, so now we need to upload it. It's not going to work, but that's fine. We'll get there. App icon. Okay, so 20 points. Okay, 2x and 3x. Like what we can do is we can just take all of these and drag them and drop them in, and it will put them where it thinks that they should go, but it's not always super good at like figuring that out. So let's YOLO and see what happens. Did nothing. Oh, okay, they just all got put. It just decided not to make that decision for us. It's like, nope, I have no idea where these are supposed to go. You figure it out. All right, so 20 point at 1x. 20 point. So iPad notifications. 20 point at 1x. Bang. Okay, 20 point at 2x. Got it. 29 point at 2x is there. 29 point at 1x is there. I don't think that I wanted the corners on there. Oh. See if I can. That's what we want. What did I do? I hit Command F2 and something happened. That was not what I was anticipating happening. Okay, what we want is to delete all these, go away. I changed my mind. I don't want any of you in here. Whoa! I was holding down Shift and it slowed the animations. Okay, go away. So what we actually want is the same thing, but I think we're on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1 on the NES now. Yes, we are. Another like very, very good game. And by very good, I mean like oppressively, terrifyingly difficult. I like owned that game as a kid for a little while, and I never got past. You can like after you get past the dam and get across into the second part of the city, it gets really hard. The dam is really hard too. That's the underwater, the infamous underwater level where you've got to like swim through and defuse bombs in like 3 minutes or something. It took a long time to get through. Once you figure out the way through it, then it's relatively easy. But okay. Share, export. Okay, so we want all the same ones exported. And it's just going to drop it on the desktop, apparently. New folder. Let's call it whip. iCloud Drive, are you seriously syncing right now? Are you seriously not? It's not the right time. It's not good. Don't sync right now. I'm trying to do stuff with the internet. Rock Pusher, am I still online? Everything everything's still okay. iCloud Drive is trying to sync, and it's like... Okay. Providing you're only uploading one item, that's okay. I'll allow it. This time. Why is there no preview for this one? I don't know. It's there. Okay. That's not good. Encoding overload. Consider turning down video settings or using a faster drop frames. Or using a faster dropped frames. It's back down to 0 dropped frames, 0%. So it's probably okay. I think that may have just been either the export or... something. That's good. Being online is good. All right. So let's... Now that we have rounded corners... No, now that we have unrounded corners, we have square corners, which is actually what we want because it will round the corners for us. Let's see what we can do here. So let's start from the top. So we want 20 point at 2x and 3x. So that's a 2x. That's a 3x. We want 29 point at 2x and 3x. 29 at 2 and at 3. We want 40 point at 2x and 3x. This is probably my upload to iTunes Connect that's also causing drop frames and such. Okay, so why did we not get 40 point at 3x? Probably because it's the same as 60 point at 2x. Very smart. Sketch has got it figured out. Okay, so... and then we've got 60 at 2x and 60 at 3x. iPad notifications is 20 points at 1x and 2x. And then 29 points at 1x and 2x. Yeah, unfortunately, until I find some solution to the computer issue, we are probably going to be dealing with drop frames and latency. But, you know, at some point we will release this app, and maybe that will buy me a new computer. Maybe. Okay, so 7 to 11, 40 points, 1x and 2x. So 40 points at 1x. 40 at 2x, and then 76 at 1x and 2x. Is that the right one? I'm not sure if it was. Yeah, it is. Okay. And 76 at 2x. This is still highlighted, so I was confused. iPad Pro 83.5 at 2x, yeah, okay. Okay, and then App Store is 1024, which I assume is this one. See what's going on this end. So, operation failed, missing info plist value, a value for the info.p plist key CF bundle icon name is missing in the bundle com. Apps built with iOS 11 or later SDK must supply app icons in an asset catalog and must also provide a value for this info.plist key. For more information, see this URL. Okay. Can I like copy, please? Because that's like a weird URL. Okay, and then missing icon required. Okay. Missing required icon file, missing required icon, missing store icon. Okay, so that's everything except for this one is not surprising. This one I haven't seen before, so let's take a look in our info.p list. And let's look at the keys. Okay, so sure enough, we don't actually have anything indicating the this icon business. Aha. Okay. So we are still on the awesome NES, but we switched to... Hey, Nick Arrow, how's it going? Welcome. We are back on uploading stuff to iTunes Connect because it needs to get done at some point, and even though it's not coding, it needs to get finished, and I was not finding time to do it, so now is the time that we were going to get it done. So... Right, so according to this Stack Overflow answer, which of course is automatically trustable 100%, so it's not in assets, it won't let us go into assets. Yeah, extremely on brand. I hadn't thought of that, but that's true. I never actually tried the, like, DuckTales remastered or whatnot. Okay, it's also possible that, like, our asset catalog... still not showing that. Okay, let's just try uploading again. Now that we have our icons in place, and see if that fixes it. If not... So we might drop frames and stuff here again, because this seems to be something that causes chundering. Ugh. It's Friday evening. We've been streaming for like an hour and a bit. Got off to a late start again. I really don't like getting off to a late start. I'm always ready to go at 7, but, you know, we keep on having to restart the computer and other such things. But at least all the hardware is working tonight, which is good. The iPad has not hiccuped at all. That's great. There was another issue I was having with the iPad where the keyboard, it's an iPad Pro, the keyboard case thing was suddenly disconnecting all the time. And I was getting a nasty message that was like, I don't support this peripheral, and it like clearly did, because it's a peripheral that's made by Apple and whatnot. So I called support, and while I was on the phone with support, they were like, install the latest update for your iPad. I'm like, I don't see how that's going to help. Sure enough, there was a bug in like iOS 11.1 or 11.2 that broke the keyboard, and another update in iOS 11.5 that fixed the keyboard. So eggs on my face, but my keyboard works, so that's good. That is good to have. There's a very cool product that I saw a little while ago, and I hope I'm able to find it again for when I do have a slightly sturdier computer here. That is just like a clip that clamps your iPad onto the side of your screen, and that would be really nice, because I have to like sort of look way down over here to look at the iPad right now, and it would be nice to like look there to see the iPad. So I could be like, yeah, that'd be so much easier, you guys, so much easier. My life is so hard. My life is so hard as a iOS developer with a decent job and a wonderful family, and yeah, I don't have a lot to complain about. So apparently I can complain about my screen being too low. Sigh. Verifying assets. Let's see what happens. So I'm hoping that what was happening is just like the app icon thing was like pointing to an icon that didn't exist, and then because it didn't exist, so it was causing the problem. I guess we'll see. If this just works, that would be amazing. We can move on to other, more fun things. But right now it's just loading. Which is okay, because I can go and do this in the chat. Whee! That is not going to get old. I'm enjoying that. We can close Stack Overflow maybe? Or we can just like keep looking around Stack Overflow to see if someone else has a solution for that issue. Okay, so that's unexpected. Oh, wait, no. Because that we didn't... Right. Also, I don't know why that's still there. Because it shouldn't be. Boy, anyway, whatever. Yeah, okay. We need to re-archive this now, like with all of the icons. So yeah, I haven't tried DuckTales Remastered yet. I downloaded it on iOS, like on my iPad, but I have not had a chance to look at it. Oh my gosh. So I have been earlier this year. Okay, actually this story goes back even farther than that. So Tally and I live in Vancouver, which, as you are probably aware, is one of the most unlivable places in North America to be. Just the disparity between it's not the most expensive city in North America, but the disparity between general like average salary and cost of living is like the highest in North America. So yeah, it's tough to live here, and we are very fortunate. We have an awesome apartment, but it's quite small. And of course we are raising a child here, so everything needs to be compact, and we've needed to find new ways of organizing things to create a nursery for her. So we actually took our second bedroom. We have a 2-bedroom in Vancouver, so we're doing pretty well. But we had to take the second bedroom and convert it into a nursery. And in so doing, we had to just make a whole ton of space. So a bunch of stuff got jettisoned. One of the things that got jettisoned was my desk, which is why I set up for this on Tally's sewing desk, and why my whole setup needs to be needs to be collapsible. Like I need to be able to stop streaming, take everything, fold it all up, put it in a drawer, and then come back the next week and unpack everything, set it all up again, and go back to doing it. Go back to streaming as if nothing happened, which is also why it's like I can't get like an iMac and have a second monitor and all this kind of stuff, because it all needs to be collapsible, and that's very important. So we had a big TV stand piece of furniture. This is like a year ago. That was holding the television, obviously, and video game consoles and all my retro video games. And that's basically the purpose that it served. And I realized at some point, I'm like, I actually never play my retro video games. So I have been deaccessioning all of my retro games for a while. In fact, I got rid of the last one this last week. And we got rid of that piece of furniture. So, yeah, that has been a process. So step one, first thing that I wanted to get out, I got rid of all my retro video games. All I have now is the stuff that I actually theoretically could want to play now on systems that I on modern systems that I currently own. So number two, we have realized that we are not watching television anymore. And when I say we're not watching television, I don't mean that we are not watching TV shows. I mean that we are not watching the physical object, the television. And like part of this is because, like when our daughter's awake, we don't want to watch TV with her. Like babies are like super like absorbed, super drawn to TVs. And I don't know, it just seems like it's brain hacking to let them watch TV. Like it's like a bright object where there's like things moving and faces, and they like can't tear their eyes away from it, and it just feels like, as I say, brain hacking. Like it's something that we are keyed evolutionarily to like want to look at. But anyway, so we don't want to watch TV when she's in the room, and but the TV is also positioned on a wall, and there's only like one wall in the entire house that could, in the entire like living area that could have a TV on it, just because of the way the windows are positioned and things like that. So we have it positioned the only place that it could go, and it is on the wall next to her room, which means that if we like were to watch it, the sound would carry immediately into her room. So we can't watch it when she's awake, and we can't watch it when she's asleep, which means that we basically don't use the television. We watch TV, and we watch TV together. We just watch it, like in our bedroom on like an iPad, or usually on an iPad. So these are leading to this is leading to the conclusion that we don't need a TV anymore. So that's step two. Step one, got rid of all the retro video games. Step two, we're probably going to get rid of the TV because we don't use it. And then the Super NT comes out. Yes! Upload successful! We did it! We got there! Fantastic. Okay. We have an app that is in the App Store. No, it's not. It's not in the App Store. It's just on iTunes Connect. It could go in the App Store, and it would not sell well and would make us look pretty bad to put it in the App Store. But it is on iTunes Connect. So step whatever, 1 is complete. Step 5, whatever, we've been through quite a few steps. The key signing was like 6 steps. So yeah. Where was I going with that? Right. So step 1, got rid of video games. Step 2, getting rid of TV. And then this week, the Super NT gets like launched, and everyone is like reviewing it and saying really nice things about it. And the Super NT is like super in my wheelhouse. Like the Super Nintendo was my system. And I mean, the Nintendo was very much my system too, but the Super Nintendo era was like a time where I was playing so many video games, and it was when I was really identifying as a gamer, and specifically a Nintendo fan, and all this stuff. And one of my absolute fondest memories is the summer that Morgan and Morgan's stepbrother and I played Secret of Mana. Like, we rented it from the video rental place near my house over and over and over again, so that other people couldn't delete our saves, and like played it over the course of like multiple weeks. We also like played Magic, playing with our new cards from the Legends expansion at the time. Like, this is the 90s, and it was awesome. Anyway, super fond memories. I would love to, rekindle that, like play through Secret of Mana with Tally or something at some point. And that Super NT is like, it's a beautiful system. It's tiny. It's purple like the Super Nintendo was. Those little wireless controls. I might just get one of the wireless controllers, the 8-bit do ones, to play ROMs with and stuff. They're so good. And as I say, super in my wheelhouse, and I am so sad that, not sad, but like, it's like just this time I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I'm like, but I have no games to play on it, and I have no television. So what's the point? Doesn't matter. I can just play emulated Nintendo games or Super Nintendo games on the Switch, and it's fine. But yeah, it's ironic that happens like just this week as all this was materializing. That's my very long story about that. Yes, we definitely ground those Legends cards into concrete, but that's okay because we couldn't really get many of them. Legends as a set was like super heavily allocated, and so it was like there for like 2 weeks, and then it was gone. And what happened with that, like, I got, I think, maybe 3 packs of Legends total. The other thing is, when you're a kid, you can't afford packs of Magic cards. Like, they're so expensive for allowance and whatever. I guess Magic cards packs haven't really increased in price very much in the last 20 years, but at the time, a pack of Legends was like $4 maybe. It's just like around what a pack of Magic cards costs in Canada now. You get like Homelands or Fallen Empires for like $2.50 or something, but that's expensive when your allowance is like $6. So anyway, I got like maybe 3 packs of Legends because they were available for like 3 weeks. And I don't think that I got anything good in them. I don't even remember what the rares were. Where was I going with that? Yeah, so because they were so hard to get, and because we as kids thought the gold cards were so cool, all the like local gaming stores, I don't want to say Yellow Jacket was complicit in this. I love Yellow Jacket. I don't know if they did this because I only bought my cards at Dragon Strike, the store down the road from Yellow Jacket. There were three stores at the time that sold cards right in the same area, and one of them was Yellow Jacket, one of them was Dragon Strike, and one of them was Curious Comics. And Curious didn't sell singles, so they were somewhat less exciting. Yeah, Dragon Strike was the first place that I heard of selling Magic cards, so they were the place that I was loyal to. Dragon Strike, and they definitely did this, which was basically any legend, any gold legend, and we were talking bad gold legends like Jedit Ojanin and what are the other ones, like that pirate guy or lady, I don't know. All these bad legends, common gold cards, they sold for like $2 or $3 because we kids would buy them because we thought they were so cool and so powerful just because they were gold cards. I also went to my first Magic tournament in that era, where I just took my 3 best colors, or my best cards in 3 colors, and played a deck that played Palladium War, no joke, just Elder Dragon Legend, let's go. And I won my first round, and my opponent was so crushed. And of course, a single elimination tournament, so that knocked him out. But and I was so happy. And I played against someone who was like literally running Moxes, Moxen, because at that point that was all cool. Okay, let's get back to actually making our app. So yeah. Coming up, it's okay, it's going to auto-renew, so don't worry about it. My Apple developer account will be okay, it'll renew. Everything will be fine. Deck of many things. Okay, so let's click on this. Where do we put our binaries? We don't have any of these. Our binaries are not showing up yet. So we might have to wait for a little bit for our binary to show up. It's possible that it will take a little bit of time. I just want to check test flight here. Uh-oh, it says missing compliance. Provide export compliance information. Does your app use encryption? No. Does your app only use standard encryption in iOS and macOS? Great. Okay, so this build is set to go. It can be tested. That's great. Good. We're set to go. Yeah, sorry. Magic. It's, you get me talking about old stories like this. I have a lot of nostalgia for playing old school Magic cards from back in the day. Okay, it looks like our build is ready to go, so I'm happy leaving this like that, and I will do the remainder of getting this to Ash later on. But I am glad that that has worked out. So yeah, we can move on from that. Boom. Thank you for following me on that journey. I still don't know what is going on with this. Icon 20 points at 3x is 60 by 60, but should be 87 by 87? That doesn't make any sense. Let's take a look at that. So is that this one? 29 at 3x would be 87. So that's not it. What else is 29 at 3x? This one. 29 2x. 29 at 1x. No, so we want 29 at 3x, not 29 at... Do you want to highlight it for me so I can see what the problem is? No, you don't want to highlight it. We've moved on to Darkwing Duck, obviously. Duel's video games are pretty good. I'm hoping MTG Arena is going to be good. That could be good. Honestly, I play more Hearthstone than Magic these days because it's just easier. It's not easier to play, it's just easier to access because it's just always there on my phone. It looks like this is the one that it's complaining about, but because it's the one that's supposed to be 87 by 87. Medium iPhone, size 29. Okay, well, I'm sure I'll figure this out at some point, but I'm not going to be too concerned about it right now. Again, seeing as things uploaded fine. Okay, this is actually bringing up in the sidebar the thing that it's talking about. What is it assigned to, though? Is it assigned here? It is. Okay, so that's the one that's wrong. So we want that to be gone. And we want... don't want to work from there. I want 29 at 3x. I probably just grabbed the wrong one. Build that. It's interesting that it let that upload, even though that was apparently wrong. But okay. Alright, so now we're just getting this weird warning, which, as I say, I don't understand yet. But we can look for that on Stack Overflow later. I'm sure that it has something to do with the iPhone 10 that I'm just not realizing. Okay, so what do we want to do now? Oh, pardon me. So I guess other things that I was thinking of doing would be that we should really try and get the multiple rules systems in. So I think that's my next sort of goal here. Let's try and get this accommodating all the different rule systems that we can. So let's start with 3.5 and go from there. So I first want to get the 3.5 rules, which we can get fairly easily off D20 SRD. And we want magic items. There's a secret Tally in the background who doesn't want you to know that she's here, but she is secretly here in the background.
It's very, very secret.
Yep. No one I'm sure heard that because it was so secret.
Exactly.
Again, we're in a small house. It has 2 bedrooms, and presently our daughter is occupying all of one of them by herself. The luxury to have a whole bedroom to yourself. The 2 of us occupying the other bedroom at the moment.
Share.
Yeah, we have to share a bedroom. Yuck. Where's the deck of many things? Deck of illusions. No one wants that deck. That's a bad deck. Rockbusher says hi, secret Tally. Rockbusher says hi to secret Tally.
Hello.
Okay, so I just want to do a quick idiot check here to make sure that we've got all the same cards in the deck of many things that we expect to have. Let's look at our card strings. Of course, ours are in alphabetical order. So okay, so Balance, Comet, Donjon, Uriel, Flames. Fates is down there because it's the Fool, Gem, Idiot, Jester, Key, Knight, Moon, Rogue, Ruin, Skull, Star, Sun, Talons, Fates we saw earlier, Throne, Vizier, Void. Okay, so we're good. So that's good. I guess next up we should these are much more succinct descriptions in general, I think. than the previous one. Where's the skull? Yeah, a dread wraith appears. Okay, so let's yeah, I was making that joke last week. I am the only idiot here. Only I am the idiot. Let's just copy this text over and yeah, I see it like the 5th edition ones, it's like your mind suffers a wrenching alteration causing your alignment to change. Whereas the 3.5 version is the character must change to a radically different alignment. That's boring. Oh well. So we'll call this rules dot 3.5. Rules dot 3.5 e, so that we're not using a dot. Rules dot 3_5e. Sure, we'll do that. And I'm just gonna go ahead and copy this into all of our different ones. Actually, let's go all the way and just do that to save ourselves some copy and pasting. Did I? Probably. Whoa! Hello. Yeah, I thought so. Okay, let's go. Add app icon. That's it, right? That's just icon stuff. The stuff that I just did hasn't been updated here. I think that's correct. Yeah, okay. I guess then it's not the real app icon either. It's the placeholder icon, but... Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Copying and pasting stuff is such an exciting part of making an app. I've been thinking a lot more about D&D in the last couple of days again. I really want to play some more D&D. I really want to, like... I had some cool ideas for, like, a campaign setting that I wanted to do. But I think that what I'm going to start with, if I can find time to play D&D again, is going to be just doing something really simple and just running a pre-made campaign of some sort. But I'm probably still going to do it in Maze Rats, which is my current preferred OSR system. Just because it is so incredibly simple. I have some, like, mods I want to make to Maze Rats. Hey, there's a familiar face. Welcome. Yeah, copying and pasting is very important. I copy and paste a lot. It's a very important part of my day. It is something that I recommend a lot of people do, because if you copy and paste stuff, you know you won't make mistakes, especially when you're like dealing with stuff that is for some reason not stored in a constant. That's very important. Do. Rockport, you got all the emojis. You are such a good supporter of people. The Fates. That's what we want. So yeah, I have some interesting like hacks to Maze Rats that I want to like write down and then do a campaign where people have to use those hacks. That could be fun. Because I want to try them out. I also like the whole OSR thing where you like get to hack D&D to work the way that you want it to. And Maze Rats in particular plays into some stuff. I feel like there's a lot of stuff in D&D that could be a lot easier and or a lot simpler, and that when you cut out a lot of the stuff that's in D&D, it feels a lot more like the D&D that I played when I was a kid. Like basically class features and special abilities. It's funny how like that stuff I was super excited about when like 3rd edition came out, but now I'm kind of like, oh, I kind of want to just go back to like 2nd edition where fighters could just attack and not do a lot else, because it's more like that feeling that you're just playing a person who's stuck in a situation who doesn't necessarily have superpowers. They can just do kind of what a reasonable human would be able to do. And that means that they're fragile too, right? Like it means you can die super easily, but which is part of the appeal of those old school systems. But that's yeah, I don't know. It's just sort of where I'm at with my gaming at this point. Also, like the ability to like generate a character randomly in 5 minutes is pretty good. That makes it a lot easier to, you know, for people to grapple with having their people killed. Whoa, wait a minute. This card sometimes bears the image of a moonstone gem with the appropriate number of wishes shown as gleams therein. Sometimes it depicts a moon with its phase indicating the number of wishes. Full 4, gibbous 3, half 2, quarter 1. The wishes are the same as those granted by the 9th level. Interesting. I had not thought about this, but it's possible that for the moon card, we will need to do something special. There might be some mechanic involved there where we need to figure out the number of wishes. It would be especially cool if we could do like different art for the different phases of the moon. But that will be on Ash to figure out whether she wants to do that. Also, I note that in 3.5 it's 4 wishes, or a D4 wishes, and in 5th edition it's 3. Also, I just want to do a quick check on these. Change different alignment, it's basically the same. It's going to defeat the next hostile monster. Okay. Wait. Okay, so Donjon looks like it's incorrect. So this has the same meta effect of drawing no more cards. So that's okay. It's quite a lot of emotes. Flames. One of the parties is slain. Determine the outsider randomly. So this is like a powerful devil. In 3.5, it is a powerful outsider, which could mean I kind of think that this is more interesting because it could be like a good outsider that has decided that it doesn't like you anymore. So like an angel could come after you. That would be pretty exciting. It's a fool. Oh, interesting. There are... So... In the 3.5 chart, we have a summary. And then rules text. Which is interesting. That is different from 5th edition. I just want to check. Deck of many things. Yeah, so we didn't have the summaries in 5th edition, which makes that a little bit tricky. So I guess for now, okay, so let's do this like this. Let's say heading dot 3_5 e. Yeah, I mean, I could make up summaries, or I could just not show them for the 5th edition versions and show them for the 3rd edition ones, which is probably what I'm going to do. Basically, like we'll look at whether or not we have a heading for it and do it that way, I guess. That makes sense. Because I'm trying to avoid adding any text if I can. Trying to avoid text in general as much as possible. But we'll see. Anything could happen. We could end up making up summaries. And I mean, like, mostly the summaries are just, I mean, they're fairly self-explanatory. I think that they're mostly unnecessary for the 3.5 ones, except for sometimes they are. But more than anything, I'm just trying to sort of directly replicate the SRD at this point in time. Which is sort of why I'm like, yeah, it's cool because you can have the direct rules from whatever edition of D&D is your favorite in the app. But that's going to take a lot of copying and pasting. A lot of copying and pasting. Also, it's going to be interesting, like, so Osric is the go-to for AD&D, for the Deck of Many Things. I still haven't done the research on whether the deck showed up in AD&D for the first time, or whether it had been in Basic. That's going to be interesting to know as well. But Osric seems like the go-to for AD&D, and then for 2nd edition, I guess Golden Glory. Actually, I can show you that. So, like, the layout right now for the cards looks like this. So we can tap them to make the description appear and disappear. And this is all like placeholder fonts and visual styling and whatnot. But so I just put the heading up above in heavier text, probably. But we'll go from there. Yeah, I mean we're relatively, as these things go, we're pretty far along. We don't have art for everything yet. I'm hoping that Ash will be very excited though when she sees what everything looks like. Okay, so, and I mean, like, yeah, obviously I'm taking her art and putting it in like not great circumstances right now, but it'll get better. Before we've this dragging is not doing what I want it to all the time now. It's in iTunes Connect, but that doesn't mean it's going to the App Store anytime soon. Okay, so let's go back. So balance. I am gonna make take some artistic license here and make this ellipses look more correct. I know. I said I didn't want to change any text, and now I've changed the spacing of the periods and ellipses. I'm the worst. I'm the biggest hypocrite that ever lived. Yeah, see, I think enmity between you and an outsider is so much more interesting. Because, like, I think it's more interesting for, like, a good outsider to be mildly annoyed with you than for an evil outsider to be like after you. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe an evil outsider being angry with you can be like a thing sometimes, but definitely good outsider hating you, I think, leads to interesting story situations. Idiots. Lose intelligence. Permanent drain. Permanently reduce your intelligence by 1d4 plus 1 to a maximum of 1. You draw one additional card beyond your declared draws. This card causes the drain of 1d4 plus 1 points of intelligence immediately. The additional draw is optional. Oh! Oh yeah, no, it's optional in both cases. Yeah, exactly. And leaving it to the DM to decide what's more fun is like what's going to be more fun for the DM, right? And that's a good option, or that's a good decision to make, because what's going to be more fun for the DM is typically what's going to open up more story possibilities. And there are so many possible story possibilities with that particular card. Something else I realized, I had like worried about what happens when you draw out the deck, like what is the interface. What does the interface do when you draw out the deck? I don't think it's possible to draw out the deck because you die if you draw out the deck. Like once you draw the last card in the deck, you are already dead at some point. There are like multiple cards in the deck that kill you. So that's not actually going to be a problem. And the cards straight up say they end the draw, and we end the draw there. Something that I had pondered. Something I've pondered in the design of this app, though, is like whether having, like right now we have the sort of situation where you can when you draw certain cards, they do things like end the draw, but whether there should be some sort of like DM intervention button or something that allows you to like break the normal rules. Because the DM has decided that the rules get broken, so it's like this should end the draw, but like you can have a button that allows the DM to go in and say, oh, well, you actually get more draws or whatever. Because like at the table, of course, anything can happen. I think that this is clearly not an MVP concept, but it is something that we could do in the future, because that seems like it would be something that would be helpful for D&D players. One of your friends turns against you is Rogue. I'm just going to go through and do all of these ones first. Ruin. Defeat Dread Wraith or be forever destroyed. I like that it's Dread Wraith as opposed to Death, which is the 2nd edition one, I think. I'm also pondering whether or not to do Pathfinder as a separate entry here, or whether it's like identical to 3.5. We're gonna find that out very shortly, so I'm gonna actually go check on it right after we're done this, because that'd be good to know. +2 inherent bonus to an ability score is very, very strong in 3.5, because a lot of 3.5 in higher levels ends up being like stacking bonuses. So if you can, inherent bonuses can stack with anything. I believe that's how that works. Yeah. So inherent bonuses stack with anything, which means that you can stack them with basically anything else. Whereas if you have like a +2 magic bonus, you can only have like one magic bonus, or enhancement bonus, I guess it's called. And so you've got to be pretty fastidious in like finding like, okay, I want to increase my AC. That therefore means that I need a natural armor bonus and a dodge bonus and an inherent bonus to my dex and an enhancement bonus to my dex and whatever else bonus to, other different things. That's part of the metagaming of 3.5, but inherent bonus is very, very strong. Deflection bonus is another one you can get for AC. Okay, this is some pretty sick music. What is this that we're listening to at this point? I had a window minimized. There it is. Contraforce. Nice. We've just been listening through NES playlists at this point because I turned it on to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, but this one YouTuber just has tons and tons of soundtracks. So I've just left the playlist on, and we are listening through all of them. Because why not? Contraforce, though, is like a rare enough game that I have actually never heard the soundtrack before. It's not bad, though. Okay, back to Deck of Many Thingsing. We have Vizier, Void we don't have yet. Okay, I think that's all of them. Now, where did we get to? Did we get to... It was like... It was one that had like a contextual thing. It's like, the fighter appears out of nowhere. And I was like, what fighter? I don't understand. But now that we have the heading, it makes more sense. We may also just prepend the heading to the rules text if we decide that's going to be better. Okay. I have not watched any of Dice... No, that's not true. I watched the first half hour of the first episode of Dice Friends. And it seemed really good, which it should be, because everyone involved in it is really talented. And so that's awesome. But I wish that I had time to watch more stuff like that, but I do not. I am right now, my watching goal, I am watching through the Canadian Highlander Championships like bit by bit with like half an hour a night. So, but yeah, I'm glad that they've taken that particular ball and run with it. We had talked a little bit about basically doing like a Lava Bears 2, but with me not there and like not really having any time, that wasn't going to happen. One of the reasons that this particular stream is working out is just because it fits in at a time that that is like I can do, like it's after my daughter goes to bed, but it's like I can't go over Victoria for a weekend and do that, or like once a month or that kind of thing. Anyway, so we had talked about that as an option, and it never really seemed super realistic. But I am glad that that they've got Dale on board, who of course was my DM for a very long time, and is a good friend, and that he is running with it and doing some seemingly really, really cool stuff. I also like that they were like given the sort of jumping off point of like doing something in the Tomb of Annihilation setting, and that Dale, as usual, has just sort of taken it and turned it completely on its head. So yeah, seems like it is in a good place, and I look forward to catching up with it at some point. But right now, Canadian Highlander Championships, got to get through those, and that's very exciting. I gotta say, I'm not far enough through it to see any other commentators, but Alex and Serge do a really amazing job at Magic commentary. I am so thrilled with to like see and hear them talking about all the decks, and they obviously know the format very, very well. Yeah, just great color commentary. They've done a fantastic job with that. A+, would watch again. Well, would finish watching. That is. Okay, we have all the 3.5 texts into the app. Let's see if we can actually get it to show up. How do we want to do this? So we're using the localized strings API to get this stuff out of the cards. I'm just gonna commit this. Whoa. Add 3.5. Add 3.5 rules and headers. So we're using the localized strings API, which means that we either need to know if we're going to have the headings ahead of time, or when we go and get them, we will find a string that doesn't do much for us. So what we're going to need to do is like look at it. I think we're just going to probably decide based on the addition whether or not we want a heading, which is like not the best, but I guess not the worst either. We could actually make a we could make a portfolio. Portfolio. I'm reading comments in the chat. I could make an enumerator for addition that would tell us whether or not a given addition has a header. That's maybe the best thing that I can do. Because we need to persist the user's option too. So I'll call it addition, because why not? Okay, boss music over and over and over again is not my favorite thing in the world. What do I want to back this with? I guess we will back it with an integer, which seems like kind of counterintuitive, but I think that's the easiest way to do it. Case. Right now we just have two cases, and it's going to be really confusing because they are going to not line up with the integers, which is why I don't like backing it with an integer, but at the same time I do want to back it with an integer because backing it with a string would feel a lot more unsafe. I mean, whatever. We'll just do it like this way, and if we decide that it's not good, then we can do it a different way. 3.5 equals 0. Case 5 equals 1. Var name equals. Yeah, Rock Pusher, you definitely hacked my brain. Talking about brain hacking. Talking about brain hacking earlier. Yeah, it is a thing. Adults, like babies, are attracted to bright objects and moving things. So reading chat while speaking, dangerous. Don't want to let your babies read chat while speaking. So switch case. You know, I think that this is going to cause us problems. That's better. Case 3, 5. I guess this is always going to be in a string, so we could just call it 3.5. No, because we're using strings. Our strings are dot separated, so we'll leave it like it is. Case 5. Return 5e. Call it 5e just so that we disambiguate between that and integer values, which could be very confusing. we need to define name as a string. Oh, it's not conform to raw representable. What am I doing wrong here? Probably my notation for case. This should be dot. Let's just get this to work as a non-int back enumerator. Interesting. Does it actually not want a case start that is started by start with a digit? That is possible. Never actually hit that before, but that was some like messy. Oop. Some messy syntax. Okay, so now that's a little bit cleaned up. So it's like possible that this is not going to be allowed. But I wanted to like get all the syntax clean before we tried it again. I don't see why it wouldn't work, but yeah, it looks like you're not allowed to start it with a digit. Okay, that's fine. I guess. We'll call it third, because we're never going to use... Hey, Drakus. I am surprised that comment got past automod, but, you know, maybe it is... I turned automod up to... I cranked automod to the highest possible setting, so it... I don't know. Anyway. So we're going to go with these enumerators, I guess. And then when we say for a card, that's not, by the way, an invitation to try getting stuff past automod. Please don't do that. And that is also not an invitation to... Okay, anyway. So let's just try... Just replace this with 3.5 for a second. All right, and so we are still on a build-only device. We'll go back to our trusty iPhone SE to use as few system resources as possible in building our app. I do like all these like little preview images that show up with image literals. That's a really nice touch with Swift. They've done a good job with that. Also, again, like much safer than trying to call up images by their... No, it's not offensive. It's just I'm surprised Automod didn't grab it anyway because, as I say, it's set to a high level. So it, I was expecting it to like be really overzealous in grabbing anything that... Basically, you use the word sex and I was like, Automod is gonna get that, but it didn't. So I'm surprised. I thought it would be very Puritan and whatnot. So it's giving me rules.3.5, so it is not effectively getting the stuff that I want. Let's go into our cards and look at what's going on there. I'm not saying Automod should. Oh, it's 3.5E. That's why. So that should be an E. I'm not saying it should moderate that. I'm just saying I thought it would be oversensitive. Yeah, let's try that. What are we listening to now? Still Super C? Or Contraforce? Yeah, it is. We're almost at the end of it, though. It's like these NES games can only have about half an hour in their soundtracks, and then they're done. Okay, let's see if we've got 3rd edition rules now. All non-magical possessions of the drawer are lost. They did a really good job in 5th edition of making these cards sound cool, because the 3rd edition version sounds stupid. Okay, good. This is working. It is doing what it's supposed to, so that's good. Now we're not actually using our edition enumerator. Maybe we should use rules. The rules enumerator, that makes more sense. And then we'll call this, so enum rules, and this can be, this will be 5th edition. I like that a little more. Maybe it would make more sense to persist these, to make this just string backed. And then I wouldn't need to return the title. And the only other thing that we're using them for is we're going to save them in user defaults. And that is not... Yeah. So it's possible that I should just make this string-backed enumerator, and then I would just save the string to user default, which is probably okay because I'm always going to be saving a string that I control. Like, they're always going to be constants. I guess I've convinced myself that this should be a string. And then we can get rid of this because this will just always have a raw value. And then... maybe I should still... So, how do I want to do this exactly? I guess I should do it in the... I guess I'll just say make a Boolean has header. And then do, say, return self equals right now this is what we will do, but this logic is going to get more complicated as we will get other editions, presumably some of which will have headings and some of them will not. But that's probably fine. Okay, so now we want to fix whatever compiler warnings we have. What's going on there? I'm hoping that's just... nope. Oh, well, I should probably, yeah, declare what that is. Sigh. It's late, I'm tired, it's been a long week. Has header. What is it? I don't know. It's just a bit of code, just hangs out. I like it. It, like, does some stuff. That should not be. It's like building correctly, so I think that this is just erroneous. Yeah, okay, so we seem to be working okay. Okay, so we now know... we now know that this should be working. So I guess now we should be able to instantiate this by... we should be able to instantiate this with something from the user default. So I guess the first thing that I'm going to do is I will set... set the user defaults so that we know... So, how does this work again? Let user defaults equal user defaults dot standard user defaults dot set I think it would be something like that. Okay, there it is. Set value for key. Really? Value? It'll just take anything? I find that difficult to believe. Set value foo for key bar. Wait. Okay, it looks like this is actually what we want, because it looks like it will do... double float. This is just a property list, so we should be able to set a string. Whatever. Okay, so set string foo for string bar. I'm just making sure that I remember how user defaults works. It is a shared property list that that exists for an app it's not secure in the way that keychain is, but that's okay because we don't need this particular information to be secure. It's just a way of persisting information really easily. And like synchronize. There we go. I'm just gonna run this quickly. Okay, and then we'll say let storage string equals user defaults dot value for key bar as string if that is all okay, print I have a better spinner Dracus. The superior spinner is the duck. Print stored string. Okay, so we've commented out our storing code. So we're gonna see if something was stored, and if something was stored, then we will print it. And so I'm hoping that we will see foo down here because we stored it previously and it's now saved in the apps it's now persisted in the property list. And if that is the case, then we know that that is working and we are doing the right thing. And if it is not the case, then I will be sad. It printed foo. So good. We are set to go with user defaults. So the first thing I'm going to do is say if let stored string is default for, and we'll call it rules. So if we have rules, okay, so I guess we're not going to use this for anything. So if, let's do it like this. So if that's nil, then user defaults and we'll say rules dot 5th edition dot raw value for the key rules. Except for instead of doing that, we're gonna say I guess we can't set We can't set a static constant on this, I don't think. I don't think enumerators can store anything, so static let rules key equals is that gonna work? Doesn't say that it's not working, so good. I'm gonna just call this key actually. Okay, and then back to our app delegate. Except is that just because enumerators are not allowed to have keys, or is it because I couldn't find it, or is it because the compiler was being slow? I think it's because the compiler was being slow. Okay, so good. So what we're saying in the app delegate here is we're saying when the application loads, if there's nothing, so if you look in the rules or in the user defaults and you find nothing in the rules key, then save the 5th edition enumerator to the rules key, and we're still getting that compiler warning. Okay, the compiler warning's gone. I'm also going to say user default remove set nil value for key bar. Just delete that from my user defaults. So this should automatically set 5th edition to the rule system when the app loads if there is not already a rule system set, and that is important because we want to have a default for that. This will not be persisted if the user deletes the app and reinstalls it, but that's okay. Interesting. That's fine. Maybe that's what we want. We did set an any to it, so that implies that it is an object. And if we need to, we can just delete that to get rid of it. This is just quality of life for me. That sounds like Super C. It's Contra. It's not Super C, it is Contra. Excellent. Games that I did play when I was a kid. My cousin Dylan was super into Contra. He loved that game. When we first discovered emulators, like at Christmas dinner, he's like over at my dad's house, and I was like, "Have you heard of these emulator things?" And he's like, "No." And I'm like, "Let me show you INES." And immediately he wanted to play Contra, and we played through a lot of Contra. Okay, user defaults, so we will get rid of that. I had this like Gravis gamepad that was like awful. Like, I don't know if you ever had one of those like really old Gravis gamepads that had sort of the same layout as a Super Nintendo controller, but they were really bad. They're like a Super Nintendo controller that didn't have shoulder buttons or start and select. It was just like the D-pad, which was awful, one of those awful mushy ones, with like it was more of like a disc than a cross, and then like buttons that were like seated way too far into the controller, so it was difficult to like press multiple of them at once, because when you pressed one down with like part of your thumb to hit the other one with the other part, your thumb would have to like overcome a ridge that was too high, so like you just couldn't press multiple buttons at once. It was bad. Okay, so we got this user defaults, setting a default, good. Okay, so now what we want is okay, I'm actually going to go, because we got rid of that in rules, or we were going to have it spit out 3_5 and 5e and stuff. Why don't we just get rid of that? And then 5e becomes 5th edition. That's like rather far-reaching changes to be making with a find and replace in the coding project, so let's just hope that we're not ruining everything. This is probably pretty safe at this point. So let's go back to our card. So here, what we're going to do is we'll say let rules equal user default standard important things. Okay, so user defaults.standard value for key rules dot key. Rules and then we'll say that rules equal rules from raw value of course that's an optional, so we'll say guardlets else return, and we'll hopefully figure out if something's wrong. So right, and we need to convert that to a string because we're just getting back an object. We don't know actually what it is, and then we need to convert it to a Swift string, which is not actually an object. Redo that, and then add a comma there, and then re-indent this. Add a space where there's supposed to be a space. Try re-indenting again. That's looking better. Okay, so we try to get the rules key out of the user defaults, and if we can, and it's a string, then we instantiate some rules with it, and then we'll say rules dot plus rules dot raw value, and that should give us a good rule set. So what this should do now is give us 5th edition, because it should be setting 5th edition by default if it's not set when we start the app. Yeah, so it's in the second person, which implies to me that we are looking at 5th edition text. So good, this works as anticipated. So now we need to figure out a way for the user to actually select the rules that they want to use. And what we will do for that is go into okay, so we've modified a lot of things here, so let's fix this up a little bit. So stage all, unstage that, unstage that. So this should just all be strings files. That's a project file. Card. Update strings tables to use verbose keys. That seems good. Commit that. That's much more succinct. We'll commit this. Add rules model. Did I alphabetize that? Looks like it is alphabetized. And then set rules to 5th edition if unset add launch. And then display rules text based on edition. With 10 minutes left in the stream, I don't know that we are going to get the full-on rules selection figured out here, but we can make a start on it. So what I'm going to try and do is put a little gear up here in the corner. And then a user who wants to open settings can open it from there. So what we want here is in the setup view. So right now this is a stack, which I think is just centered. Yeah. Private lazy var settings button equals button equal UI button. I wonder if there's a way of instantiating a UI button to use a standard image. I think there might be. Yeah, Rock Pusher, right now the how many cards prompt is not great because it allows a lot of weird input if the user hooks up a keyboard or some other means of text input. So yeah, it's probably going to be a picker, like one of those things where you like slide it up and down. But we'll get there. I mean, all this UI is placeholder right now, and it was just sort of like what I could get in to make the UI kind of do what I wanted it to do at the start. So that's something that we'll that we will approach later. Just wondering if there's a way to like get the system icons for buttons, because that's really what I want, right? It's just the system icons at this point, anyway. So system seems like what we want. Oh man, this is Ninja Gaiden. I would know this music anywhere. Do 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 do. It is sure enough Ninja Gaiden. Oh man. Like shameless Castlevania ripoff, but set UI button image. It's weird, like so you can like create a UI bar button item, for example, that you can set to have its standard, like the standard OS images, like the glyphs. I just want the gear that I know exists. I mean, I guess it's not a big deal right now. I can figure this out later. like for bar button items, you can definitely like just set them to like the trash can or like the default system icons. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out if there's a way that I can easily do that, but apparently it might be harder for UI button. Um, uh, set that up so that we can use constraints on it. Yeah, Ninja Gaiden, like, Blade and Castlevania ripoff, but did a fantastic job of introducing cutscenes to video games. There's no style on that either. That's unfortunate. I was hoping for like just an easy win with some gear stuff. I can always draw my own gear, but I don't want to draw my own gear. This is like clearly placeholder art anyway. Button dot top anchor. Oh. Constraint equal to top anchor dot top anchor constant 8 trailing anchor equal to the layout margin guide. Actually, no, we'll just say that this is trailing anchor with the constant 8 as well. Right. And then we want to add what do I call it? Settings button. Run that. Probably would help if I spelled my button correctly. Yeah, Ninja Gaiden did a great job of like introducing cinematic cutscenes, cinematics period into video games. It you know, for an NES game, it did a great job at doing that. Okay, well this ruined our layout entirely. I don't understand why this should be breaking things. That's definitely a problem. But what is this stuff? Center Y. Leading and trailing. Yeah. This is like totally separate from that. Translates auto resizing mask is set to false for the things that it should be set to. False for. I have no idea why this is breaking our layout. It does not feel like it should be. This is like another one of those examples where it's like a really silly, easy thing. And there's like a lot of weird garbage stuff here. What is UISV spanning boundary? And UI layout spacer? I've never heard of that. I'm setting its bounds correctly. Good, yes, duck of many things. I like it. Alright, well, we are over time. I don't know why this button is not working. That is bizarre. I really have no clue what is up here. Because this is like not hard stuff. This is just adding a button to a view. But we seem to have acquired a bunch of layout constraints that make no sense. So weird. Like, yeah, I don't want any of these weird UISV alignment constraints. Anyway, we'll figure that out later. For right now, I'm gonna have to take off and get to bed. We are traveling tomorrow, and so we've got a long day ahead, and I've got to get some packing done before I actually go to sleep. So thank you for joining me today. I think we accomplished actually a fair bit, and we will hopefully figure out what's wrong with our button. I think that it might be something to do with our stack view and the text field. Text fields can be weird, but I don't think it should be that weird. Anyway, we'll figure it out, and we will join. I will join. Yes, we will continue pick this up next week. And keep on keeping on to get our rules actually changeable by the user, and do other exciting things from there. So yeah, thanks so much for joining, and yeah, we will see you guys soon next week. Yeah, it probably won't be sooner than that because limited time for bonus streams and stuff like that. But next week, we will keep going. All right. Cheers. Thank you for joining me. Thanks so much. And we'll see you soon.